Another day, another vocab quiz. So we're studying Andrew Jackson. So I'm going to go over these words for you so you can be successful. Don't forget that the subscription or the list of the words that you're going over at the bottom or in the description. But you can subscribe. I mean, we're up to 147 people now. We'll break 150. Nothing's stopping us now. The first word on your quiz is going to be suffrage. Suffrage is the expansion of the right to vote. The right to vote here. Well, the expansion comes to the common man, or just all white men are going to be capable of voting in the United States now. So that is going to lead us into Jacksonian democracy. Jacksonian democracy is majority rule or majority of the common man vote is going to be heard, right? And listen, we're still keeping people out of the democratic process that need to be having a voice in our government, okay? We're getting there. We're getting there. And before we go, more people are going to get the right to vote. Okay. The other word that we're looking at is spoil system, and that's giving jobs to people who are not qualified to do them. So Andrew Jackson, when he gets voted president, he starts giving people jobs. They aren't qualified, but he says, to the victor go the spoils. So therefore, he gives jobs to people who necessarily probably don't know what they're doing. But hey, who am I to judge? I am someone to judge. I can vote. All right. The other thing we're looking at here is the tariff of abominations. Everyone knows what a tariff is. Abomination is a hateful thing. So the South is getting upset because the tariff, right, the tax on imported goods, is hurting the Southern economy. Okay, and so the money from this tariff is being used for internal improvements, which is another word that we're going over this week. And so one of your vocab words. And internal improvements are making better infrastructure, whether it's roads, railroads, canals, bridges, things like that. So the South feels that not only is the tariff unfair and hurting them economically, they're also saying that the money that the government is taking is not being reinvested in the South at all. It's only being invested in connecting the Western economy and the Northern economy together. So the South finds that unfair. And so they come up with an idea of being able to nullification, or get rid of the law because it hurts them, right? What is this growing out of? We're talking about states' rights. States' rights, and we touched on this in the Alien Sedition Acts, says that states can get rid of laws that are unconstitutional. And we've talked about, well, what is the problem with that? Because basically a state can find any law unconstitutional and just not follow it, and then the federal government has no power. But with states' rights here, we're talking about the South being mad about the tariff and them wanting to say we don't have to follow the law because it violates the Constitution. Okay? So the other word, and it makes South Carolina threaten to secede. They said, well, if you don't get rid of the tariff, then South Carolina, we're out of the country. Okay? That's somewhat interesting because 30 years from now, they'll be the first state to secede during the Civil War. So we see through this whole entire since January, these things that keep on happening that build up to this culmination that's going to end up being the Civil War. Well, here's another piece of it. It's this tariff. Okay, in the South Carolina threats to secede or withdraw from the Union. Andrew Jackson says the first person who talks about secession again, he said he'd hang himself. Woo. So that's not good. And I think the last word we're looking at, two words are when Andrew Jackson gets rid of the bank, okay, they create state banks. So they get rid of the national bank and they create all these small state banks. And then the state banks, what they end up doing is over printing money. They put too much money out in circulation, supply, demand, right? If you have too much paper money out there, the demand for it is going to be very low. So you have too much of anything, the price of it lessens, or the value of it lessens. There's too much printed money in the economy, and so that ends up causing a depression. Okay, so there's a run on the banks. It's the Panic of 1837, and then we end up having a depression. and it makes our economy go down. And Martin Van Buren deals with most of this on his own, and so of course he's not going to get reelected because, as I've told you in class, presidents always get too much credit or too much blame for economies. Um, so they blame Martin Van Buren, even though it wasn't him that got rid of the bank. Okay, but Andrew Jackson, it's a cause and an extension of him. And then when he goes. So if you have any questions, please see me in class, or you can comment below with some positivity. And I hope your day is wonderful and filled with greatness.